Welcome to Freedom Cast, where your hosts, Jordan and Miranda, show you how to get just a little bit more out of life. Are you ready to leave normal behind?
Hello, Freedom Casters. Today we are talking about priorities. And this is continuing our series that is going hand in hand with the book launch of Jordan's newest book, Volcanic Momentum, which we are very excited about. And if you want to learn more about that, where can they go, Jordan?
That they can go to jmring.com/volcanic-momentum. Again, that's jmring.com/volcanic-momentum.
And that's a backslash, correct?
A backslash. You know, sometimes people call it a forward slash, but I think it's actually a backslash.
I don't know. I wasn't sure what a dash was even called. So today...
Whatever the thing you normally use in websites, whatever dash or whatever slash that is, use that one.
Yeah. So, like I said, today we are talking about priorities. And this is a really big part in how to maintain reaching towards your goals and how to maintain progress. Because if you don't have that clear set of priorities, it becomes very easy to get sidetracked.
Yes.
And that is why today we want to give some helpful hints that Jordan unpacks more in his book, but today we're going to just be, skimming the surface of...
We're trying to give you a little bit of a taste from my book, so you are of course a little bit interested in it, but there's also a lot of good stuff in it that we want to share with you on our podcast as well.
Yeah, a lot of things that can really help people with how to set priorities, how to not put too much on your plate, because I think that is the biggest problem with Americans is we just put way too much on our plate, and also probably also with like real physical food, but I'm talking more like
that's very true.
I'm talking more with all the different projects
You're talking on. The metaphorical plate.
The metaphorical plate, yes. So
that was good.
It's definitely something that we have a problem with, because how many people do you know that are frazzled? I feel like most people I know are frazzled. And I was talking to you about this the other day.
We're frazzled sometimes. We plan way too much.
Yeah, and how it's so hard to even try to build new relationships. We can talk about this more in a later episode. But
this is fine.
But just because...
It all works out in what we're talking about.
Yeah, just trying to plan coffee with someone, you have to plan out a month or a month and a half ahead of time. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what you have to do sometimes because, can you do Tuesday? Oh, no, I have to do this. Can you do next Thursday? No, And
you go back and forth with each person, is busy doing something already one of those days.
Yeah, so I think priorities that's a huge topic that I think everyone can use a little assistance with. And we have this interesting, it breaks down the percentages of how much time you spend doing different things per month. So we're saying that if you have 720 hours per month, if that's a 30-day month or 30?
That's a 30-day month.
Okay, it's not February.
That is 30 times 24. And while you're talking, I'm going to check just to make sure.
Yeah, so this is your average month. You have 720 hours.
Yep.
And those hours break down into about 33% are spent sleeping.
Assuming 8 hours a night.
Yeah, which a lot of people
obviously
don't get 8 hours. So that's, I feel like probably the majority of people don't get 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, 33% of what you should get.
Yeah, that's pretty generous. Maybe you only spend 28% of your month sleeping.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's still a lot. Still a large percentage of your time.
Yes, and 22% of that time is spent working.
Yep.
And do you know if that's like a 40-hour work week?
40-hour work week.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a huge chunk.
These are all basic numbers.
We talk about, how work takes up so much time. That's 22% of your month.
And I did the research for these, but just bear with us. We're not saying this is 100% accurate, but this is close. I did do research. This isn't just our own thinking with this and our own numbers, but it's not 100% scientific either.
Yes, this is not backed by a scientific journal. So commuting to work, that's 3%. So if you add that on to the 22, that's a quarter of your month is spent work-related. That's if you don't bring any work home.
And that was with the average commute too. If you have an hour or two commute, I mean, that percentage is going to skyrocket.
Woo, yeah. Prepping and eating food is around 3%. I mean, I feel like we take forever just even talking about food. What are we going to make next Tuesday? You know?
Yeah, if you're making more, like, I mean, healthy meals, I think generally just take longer. Unfortunately. Yeah. And we don't always eat healthy, but we've been eating healthier lately, and it does take long, more time. Yeah. You cook a bunch of vegetables and then they're gone.
Yeah, it does take a while. And this one's astonishing to me. So the average person spends about 2 hours a day on social media. But if you're talking about a teen, then that average goes from 2 to 9.
Yeah, it goes from 8% of the day to 37% of the day.
Or the month.
Crazy.
The month, right?
The month.
Yeah. 8% of the month to 37% of the month.
It's crazy.
That's a lot of time on social media.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to think that didn't even exist before.
Yep.
When, we were in middle school, there was no social media. Back in our day,
I had a flip phone in high school.
Yeah, I had a track phone.
Nice.
But it was, I don't think it was late high school. Everyone else had their cool razors. And
I had a Crazer at one point. It was pretty cray.
And I was not. I was just not part of that cool club. But that's fine.
You're still not, but that's okay.
I'm driving my Chevy Lumina with my track phone.
Yeah, you were pretty cool.
Listening to Avril Lavigne, It's yeah. So
anyway,
coming back to this. So after you add up all those percentages, you are left with 30% of your month left, and that's just that was just the basics. That's just the bare bones work, basics. Sleeping, eating, and social media. So. Social media.
That was just an extra interesting stat, because you can do that. Like, you can do social media like during some of those things. But yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people probably work, and that's the work and social media probably overlap.
Yeah, as we said, not 100% scientific. We're just trying to give you a. Miranda almost fell there. We're trying to give you a basis of information, and to kind of show our point here that we spend a lot of time doing these basic things, and then we're left to fill in the blanks. And sometimes it can feel like, man, like, how do we have any time left to do anything after sleeping, working, commuting, all of that stuff, eating? Like, how do we have time left to do anything? With all those things, we only have about 7 hours left in the day that we have to, schedule. We have to figure out what we're going to do with. And it's tough.
That disappears quick.
It may seem like a lot per day, but it's really, there's always going to be other things as well. Those were just the basics. There's going to be cleaning. You're going to have to go drive and drop off your kids at their practice. You're going to have to stay in. There's always going to be many, many, many other things that fit in there.
You have to go to the dentist.
Yeah, the dentist.
The dentist.
Yeah. Miranda's favorite pastime.
I know. I have an appointment I'm dreading.
As you can tell.
So I think one of the biggest things to start with is just valuing your time, realizing that your time is limited, and it is a very limited resource. And, money, you can scrounge up ways to find money a lot of time, but time, there's no give or take. That's what you got.
Yeah, we all have the same amount per day, 24 hours a day. That's it.
Yeah, so
it's the great equalizer. It
is. And you need to realize that your time on this earth is limited, and it's valuable time, and you have to prioritize. You have to find out, what do you want to spend your time doing, and not just do what other people are doing, because that's just the easiest thing to do sometimes, but to really look inside, dig deep and say, okay, this is what I want to spend my time doing, and just valuing that, because it is, it's hard. It's hard to prioritize when there's so many different things that grab your attention.
Yep. Yeah, you want to make sure it's your decision too. Like Miranda was just saying, you want to make sure it's something that you really want to do, because we only have so much time.
Yeah, exactly. And another important thing is not using just the excuse of, I'm so busy. I'm too busy to do this. I'm too busy to do that. I'm too busy to start a side hustle, or to help others, or to, eat healthier, like our example. It's very easy to use that out and say, I'm just too busy. But it really is, you have to own up to the fact that, instead of saying I'm too busy to eat healthy, you have to say eating healthy is not a priority of mine. And just own up to it, because that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and I think that's a hard thing to say. Eating healthier is a hard thing to say. That's not a priority, because I think we all want to eat like a little bit healthier. But then we do absolutely have to realize that busyness really is a facade. It's only, it's what we're making of it. And some people are busier than others. Some people have more things to do than others. Some things have more high level priorities than other people, and that's fine. This is going to be as challenging as it is for you. It's just going to be your own unique situation. But busyness really is just something that we're putting a word on something that doesn't really exist. It's really about our priorities, whether we're choosing to do certain things. And if you have a lot of priorities, a lot of competing priorities, then you're going to have a lot to do. And that's just how that is. But then you have to recognize it and own up to it. And I think that's just so important. And it can just be a huge difference. Like, do I want to, have dinner with this person, or do I want to do this thing with this person? Like, if it's not a priority, you don't necessarily have to tell that person that they're not a priority.
Yeah. Please do not text them back with, you are not a priority in my life right now.
That's not necessarily like a super nice thing to say, but then you really do have to answer the question to yourself, like, is this person or is this thing really worth my time? Can I make this a priority right now to do this? And if you have other like higher competing level priorities, like you have a lot of stuff going on with your family, if you're volunteering during the week, if you have other priorities that you believe are more important than those things, you just have to measure them against those things.
Yeah.
And it just takes thinking about it. It's not like me and Miranda don't have this mastered by any means. We don't have kids, so we definitely have a little bit more wiggle room there, I think. And I think it's healthy for us to try to figure this out now before we have kids. And obviously it's never too late too, but that's all I wanted to say with that. It's like...
Yeah, and that's sometimes I think it's crazy because, it's just you and me, and, you work from home. I work 40 hours a week, and it's still like, how do we not have time to do these things? We're in like the prime position to have time, and it's still a struggle for us. Yeah, if you have 3 kids, those are 3 top priorities, right there, right off the bat that, you
yes.
and I don't even have.
No.
We have our avocado plants, and that's it. And they're not exactly high maintenance. So
yep, I do use this example, and I think it's really helpful, and I think it can really kind of explain what we're saying a little bit more. I think we talked about this before, but one of my big goals in life is to become a fiction author. Mm-hmm. But that's not a priority for me right now. If anyone says, "Hey, Jordan, have you written your fiction book yet?" I'm not gonna say, "Yeah, I want to, but I haven't had the time." Like that's not what I would say, because that's not the truth. If I really wanted to write a fiction book, if I really thought it was the right thing to do right now, I would make time. I would make it a priority. But through what we're doing right now, I've decided that is not a priority. Maybe you're listening to this a year from now and I've written a fiction book. That's cool. I can't wait to do that. But it's not a priority. It's not something I want to do right now. So my attitude towards it is I'm not too busy to do that. I'm not going to regret it if something happens and I don't end up getting to do that with my life. I think it's just so important to have those just insights into your own desires and your own wants with life. And if you really want to get it done, then make it a priority. If you say, "Hey, Jordan, I'd love to write a fiction book. That's really what I want to do." If that just inspired you, that's great. Do it now. Get started. If you make something a priority, there's really no barrier to get started with it, I don't think. Yeah. We all have a little margin in our lives. We all have a little bit of wiggle room that if we bump something up in the priorities list, we're going to have time for it. If you really care about your fitness and health, you can make time for it. If you really want to start eating healthier, you can make time for that. But if you don't have time, if you don't really prioritize those things, if you don't really want to do those things, then just own that. Say, "Hey, you know what? I have other stuff going on in my life right now. I cannot focus on eating healthier. I just don't I don't have the margin in my life to do that. I have other priorities that are higher than that." Then that's fine, but just own it. It's just good not to make excuses for ourselves.
Exactly.
Woo, that was long-winded, but I felt good about that.
Woo, you were getting on that soapbox, mister.
I don't think it was a soapbox.
No, you're good.
I think I was being very real right there.
Yes. And what I want to add to that,
thank
too,
you.
thank you, is how that is that frees up your mind too when you make that decision. I love talking about this. I always think this is
we both
really
this is the post I wrote, and you said, Jordan, I love this. I was going the whole time. This is this is our jam, because this is how like you can free up life.
Yeah, and you spend a lot of energy feeling guilty over the things that you want to do but haven't done. And that's why it's like you said with your book. Like if you were just constantly every day like, oh man, I wish I could have started my fiction book by now, but I just don't have the time. Just thinking that every day is exhausting to say, hey, this is going to be a future priority, but right now it's not. You can put that out of your mind, and then you're able to focus on your current priorities and know that you haven't given up on that dream at all. It's just not, it's not the right time, and that's totally fine. But you're not, pining over that dream every day because you're not making any progress towards it. You're, just, okay, here it is. I'm going to put it to the side for now. That's fine.
Yep. We did the same thing when it was like, hey, the dream for me to work from home and get out of like a normal job. But we knew right away that wasn't going to happen. Like I didn't have enough experience. I didn't have enough going on. So we kind of had to table that transition. It's just like anything. We knew it wasn't going to be right to do right away. But then it does come to a certain point when, obviously there's things you're not going to know. You're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have to to devote some time into that. We're not necessarily talking about taking risks right now, but it is part of it. Part of it is taking a risk. Like if I started dedicating time to writing a fiction book, that would be a risk. Because who knows if it's going to do well, if it's what's going to happen with it.
Yeah. And it's just, I want to bring up our Aldi story.
Bring up I don't know what this Aldi story is. Just bring it up.
We have been discussing switching to Aldi from Harris Teeter for a while because we've had a bunch of different people tell us that Aldi has great deals. Probably 10 different people.
We are so stubborn sometimes. If we had to listen to this podcast and take our own advice, I feel like it'd be like,
nah. Well, yeah. And like I said, I was like, for people, I told Jordan this yesterday, for people that love change, it shouldn't be so hard for us to switch grocery stores.
No.
It's that priority thing. It was it's not, we know this is probably a good idea, but we are not making it a priority. We'd rather go where we know it's easier. It's just what we've done. We're spending, hundreds and hundreds of dollars on groceries every month.
We can literally walk to Harris Teeter if we want to.
Yeah. And so
we're comfortable at Harris Teeter. There's that comfort level.
Yeah.
Comfort level with a grocery store sounds ridiculous now that I'm saying it. But we do. We have a comfort level. We all have a comfort level with things that we know and we know what to expect.
Zach's going to be there behind the register talking about his favorite 2000 rock bands,
Yeah, he's going to be saying, hey, what's your favorite band? And I'm going to say, I don't know. I listen to Pandora, Mr. Wives, and I don't even like Mr. Wives. That's a true story. So yeah, we're jumping back to our first. I don't know what my favorite music genre is.
Yeah, well, there's a name for it. We just don't know. So we went to Aldi yesterday. And, we finally did it. And, honestly, it was kind of exhausting. After we left, we were both kind of zonked for a while.
It drained me.
Just because,
it took me down.
Big new experience. We've never been to an Aldi before. We definitely messed up because I guess you're supposed to give them a quarter for the cart or something. We
didn't do that. I'm not going to do that.
We stole a cart. We didn't steal it, but we didn't lend a quarter. And apparently you bag your own things there. But that's part of how they save money, so that they can have really good deals on all their produce and meat and everything. So
at least that's what they say. It seems like a funny marketing strategy. Yeah, to save money, you have to bag your own stuff. It's kind of, I don't know. It was a great experience, but I think there's something in there.
This podcast isn't, an in-depth Aldi review.
No, but I'm sorry. You finish your story. It's been amazing.
I know, it's been really good. Everyone's just sitting on the edge of their seat, man, I can't wait to hear how this Aldi story ends. But
You're going to be sadly disappointed. I apologize.
So basically, the story was we went to Aldi. But yeah, we saved a lot of money going there. And now we're making a plan for, we're going to go to Aldi for most of our, all our produce and meat and all those really good deals. But we'll still go to Harris Teeter to fill in on the sauces and some of the processed food that they didn't have the brands we like. So,
well, actually, it was funny because you think Aldi would be healthier, but all of the peanut butter options and some of the different sauce options all had all had not great ingredients, had sugar and stuff. So come on, Aldi, get your act together.
Yeah.
Harris Teeter's got to one-up you on there.
Yes.
It is more expensive at Harris Teeter, though. That's for
truth. Yes.
Truth and Griggles.
So, yeah. It was a good experience. We're going to save a lot of money this way. It was just making that a priority. And sometimes that's what it takes. It just takes putting it, ahead of the line when you got to do it and just, make it that priority. So, Jordan, can you kind of give them some help with how to set priorities? How do you decide what is my top priority? What would you suggest for that?
We'll put the PDF picture in the show notes of this that Miranda actually made. It's a cool way to just kind of list out your priorities. And I think, you want to have different levels. You want to have your top level, you want to have your mid level and bottom level, all priorities. So they're all important things. And you probably know this, and most likely, I mean, it's not like this is going to reveal any kind of great truth in your life, but I think it's a good way to look at it and organize it and to see, okay, like that makes sense. Like, God is my number one priority. Miranda is my second priority after that. And then it's family or, whatever yours is. And then the next level is like, okay, my volunteering at the church, my job, like all these are like the mid-level priorities. And then maybe the bottom level is just like things that you really, really like to do that make you happy, such as playing tennis with people. And I think it's good to have those because then you can really start to think, and not like I know you're not going to pull out the sheet when these things start to compete each other because I wouldn't do that.
Give me 1 second. Let me pull out my priority sheet.
Oh, you're actually on the bottom and this thing's on top, so you lose. No, I don't think that is ever what you would do. I would not think anyone's going to take that in a practical way with that. But I think it is good to at least do it, or at least like think about it, look at the sheet and think about what your priorities are. So if your priorities are family, then maybe you need to stop playing tennis 3 times a week and give some more time to your family. It can really help you see where your time's going and where your priorities actually are. Because I think sometimes we think our priorities are in a certain place, but then we actually look at them, we're like, oh, that's not what it is. For example, at one point, me and Miranda were just we were way too busy. We were making way too many things a priority that weren't actually the priorities in our lives. We were just doing a bunch of different things and we didn't really know why. And I think that can happen to all of us. We can get away with it, or life can get away from us at times, and we're just like kind of flailing around, like, what are we doing? But we're just gonna do everything we can. It got to the point where me and Miranda were like, hey, like, we're not getting enough time for each other. We weren't fighting more, nothing like that. But we're just like, hey, like, we need more time for each other. Like, our marriage is a priority. And like, we're putting so much.
We're also codependent. So.
Well, that's true too. We're putting so much time into these other things that is not necessarily helping, move our relationship along. So, we took a couple days and said, we're not doing anything else. We're focusing on each other. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes just a redirection and a reprioritizing, a shifting of your priorities to make sure you're doing the right things in life. Because like I said, life can just get away from us so quickly. That's why I think something like this can be very, very helpful for people.
Yeah. And I think, like you said,
because it's been helpful for me. That's what I'm saying. It's been helpful for me.
It's beneficial to just write it down or think about it and then see what time, take an honest look at your day and say, okay, I come home from work, I eat, and then I watch TV for 4 hours. And then I go to bed. You should, look at that and say, okay, is TV my top life priority? No, so I shouldn't be spending that much time on TV. I mean, we love, watching a show, relaxing, that's great, but
I don't think there's anything wrong with that if it's done in moderation.
Yeah, but it's just that, you probably have higher priorities that you could be, spending your time working towards those goals and those things. So you kind of have to take an honest look at what you're spending time doing. I have to take an honest look at the amount of time I spend napping sometimes because that gets out of hand. I love naps. So yeah, it's just priorities are hard. And in the book, you talk more about how there's a lot of times where it's gray areas because, maybe you want a priority to be, spend more time with me that week, but then you have a close friend that's, having a difficult time with their kids and they really just need a friend to talk to. And that's where it's that gray area. It's,
competing priorities.
Yeah, competing priorities. And those are harder. That's when, life is not clear cut. Life isn't, you can't put life into easy little boxes, anytime. So it's hard. And those gray areas are where it is even trickier with priorities.
Yeah, and I totally agree with what you're saying there, Miranda. I think that's why it's important to know what your priorities are. If I know that you're a priority in my life, but I have a friend that needs me that week, I think you're going to be very amenable to me spending more time with that person and really just taking care of that person. Because then we know that, like, hey, maybe Miranda didn't get enough time this week. Maybe that's something we can make that a priority next week. Make sure that we spend some time together. Set up a date night or two for the following week. If you know that ahead of time, you can then plan to kind of recoup that time together, and recoup and just make sure that priority gets back on track as quick as you can. And if you don't know that, if you don't know what your priorities are, then maybe I spend all week with my friend, and then me and Miranda don't even realize that we're missing out on that time together. I think that's why it can be so important to at least know your top levels and make sure that, like, too much isn't being done outside of that. Because that's the problem. Because me and Miranda have talked about this a lot. Is that there's so many good things to do. I think Miranda has said this, like,
yes,
often. Like, oh, there's all these things that we're doing are good things. Like working out, volunteering at the church. Like, all of those things are good things. But if those good mid-level priorities are affecting your top-level priorities, then you need to say no to them. Maybe it's just for a week. Maybe like, no, I can't volunteer at church this week. I'm not going to go to the workout this week. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that, so that I can spend some time with those other priorities, because we only have so much time every day, and we have to make that shift, and it's difficult and it's hard. But yeah, especially, competing priorities, when there's also things that are just like, all of these things are good, all of these things are on my priority list. How the heck do I figure out what to do? That's where it can be really helpful. Make sure you know what your top level ones are, and then just make sure you spend the time on those, and make sure that, you're giving those things quality time and the attention that they deserve.
Okay, I found this quote, and I was
nice
happy
transition.
I took a picture. Yeah, sorry. This is, I don't even remember what it's from now. Oh, Ordering Your Private World by
Gordon MacDonald.
Gordon MacDonald. Lol. Excuse me.
By
So, I just really like this quote. It's your challenge, he told me, will not be in separating out the good from the bad, but in grabbing the best out of all the possible good. And I think that's really applicable to priorities.
You have to send that to me. I'll put it on the show notes.
Yes. I like that quote. Because it is, like you said, there's so many good things you can be doing. There are a lot of things out in the world that you can do, but you have to make those decisions. And you also have to learn how to say no, which is hard.
Yep.
Because saying no to people is always a challenge.
Saying no to people or saying no to the things that you really like to do. Like, hey, Jordan, you want to play video games tonight? Like, yeah, absolutely. But, like, I haven't spent any time with my wife the past 3 nights. Like, I should say no to that.
Yeah, you should.
And no one's perfect. We're all going to do, things we shouldn't necessarily do. But I think this can be huge for gaining momentum just in life in general. This is a big key feature, strategy in my book on momentum. But I think it just can be extremely applicable in life too. And like Miranda said, we love talking about this stuff because we've seen the difference it can make in our lives. We've seen that, you could two roads diverged. We could have gone this way or we could have gone that way. But no, we said we're going to take the time for our marriage. We're going to take the time for each other, just as one example. And then that has made all the difference. I think it's been huge.
Yeah. So I hope this was really, really helpful because I think priorities, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to nail down. And I mean, we're obviously still working on it. And it's something you have to reevaluate a lot because you have a lot of life changes. You have a kid, that kid becomes one of your top priorities. So
yep,
that's life. And yeah, so can you give them that web address again in case they want to look into being part of the book launch team or leave a review or anything?
Can I also just web address? That sounds like ancient.
I know.
I love you.
What do you call it?
Link. I don't know.
Link,
I just think web address sounded like you're from the 1980s or something. Anyway.
Why don't you fax it over to me, honey?
I'll fax it over to you right now. www.jmring.com/volcanic-momentum. Again, that's jmring.com/volcanic-momentum. And I will link to that on the show notes as well, so you can have that. That'll take you to sign up if you're listening to this early on. If you're listening to this probably around August, September of 2018, that'll take you to sign up for my book launch team. Anytime in between then and when the book actually launches, you'll be able to get an advanced review copy of the book for free. All you have to do is sign up with your email, and I hope that you would give me a review in return for that free book. Or if you're listening after the book launches, it will take you to the books page on Amazon, where you can pick it up there. Hopefully it'll be available in hardcover, paperback, Kindle edition, and audiobooks. You can listen, read,
Read or read.
Read or read. Digest the book however you would like to digest the book. We thank you so much for listening to this episode. Like Miranda said, I truly hope that it's been beneficial to you. We love talking about this stuff. We've seen the life change that can come from this stuff. We are so passionate about it. So we hope it has made a little difference in your life. Maybe it's got you thinking. That would make us extremely happy. And I'll be pleased as punch if it has.
Yeah, so stay toasty, friends.
Stay toasty, friends. Have a good one.